I request Juveria ma'am to turn on her camera. So, good evening everyone present here. I, Hardik Maheshwari, on behalf of RTBI JCRC, welcomes you all to today's session of TDP Phase 3. I am profusely overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce Ms. Juveria Siddiqui. Juveria is Senior RPA Developer in BASF Shared Service Center, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. She holds expertise in technologies and tools like SAS, middleware development, and robotic process automation. We welcome you, ma'am. Now I give the mic over to you, ma'am, to take forward this session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Hardik. Good evening, everyone, and I would like to thank RTBI GCRC before starting the session. So today's session will focus basically on robotic process automation, RPA. That's a software form of automating your task. I would be walking you through RPA UiPath specifically. There are various other tools available in the market. And in today's session, I'm going to set the stage of what you can expect from me and how we are going to proceed forward in following sessions after today as well. Today's session would mostly be theoretical, but I promise you our next sessions would only be practical, and I would like you to be prepared for it, and I'll guide you how you can be prepared for it. So allow me a moment, I'm going to share my screen so that we can start our session today. Hardik, would you let me know if you can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So, what is RPA and why do I promote UiPath? So, RPA is a short form for robotics process automation. It uses not just computer vision, machine learning, and AI, it is also a highly integrated software with other software products which would automate your repetitive, high volume tasks and would basically shorten the duration of delivering a project. UiPath is a robotic process automation tool. Other tools available in the market are Power Automate, Nice, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, etc. But for our session, we are going to focus on UiPath. And what makes UiPath the best, I would discuss forward. So UiPath makes RPA tool designed for business and enterprise to carry out their task efficiently and effectively on a daily basis. It is considered as one of the best RPA tool available in the market as per Gartner and Forrester Wave. Let's move forward. Before I move anywhere, I'm sure all of you are students, I'm sure all of you need job, and I'm sure everyone gets highly excited when it comes to artificial intelligence or when you hear something as machine learning or automation. So is the buzz real in the market? It is very real. It is very real and highly, it's not something that's new, but it has been there in the market. Now it is more in the limelight. Why? Because of the COVID and the kind of job shifts we are having in the economy. So the buzz is very real. These are few extracts I tried to get by reading through the articles. I have pasted it here. You could take a look. I'll be sharing this deck with Hardik and the other team of RTBI that they might share it with you as well. So do go through this. Other things. Why should you consider RPA? The reason is jobs are changing. There are jobs in the market that can be automated through which the companies can save their money, can save their time, and can focus on other things, can focus on machine learning part, can focus on developing their business. So the job is changing, and this is where RPA comes into the picture. How do you prepare for such an automation first economy? So for that reason, we are here. We are doing this session, and we will be telling you how to. How did COVID-19, how did this pandemic help all of these things? Well, if you know, when COVID-19 hit the world, around the world, people and the companies, bigger companies, they shifted to working remotely from their home. And how did this thing impact the business? Since you were working from home, there were so many tasks that were repetitive, that needed so much of input, that started getting automated. The business started thinking about digitalizing their processes. That's where 84% of the tasks were removed from manual to automated processes. And how was it all accelerated? Through RPA. So now this COVID-19, post-COVID-19, or during this pandemic era, we realized the importance of digitalization our workforce. So this is how RPA has, come into the picture, gained so much of importance. It is said that by 2025, there multiple new jobs would appear in the market, but not necessarily all the jobs would be the same as it was pre-COVID or pre-economical situations were there. So now more jobs are getting created in data analysts and science, data science field, AI and machine learning, big data specialists, process automation. There's process automation is what RPA is all about. Business development professionals, digital transformation, information security analysts, IoTs, these jobs are in demand. These jobs are the future of the economy. And what has decreased, how has all this affected other jobs? All the data entry jobs, all the accounting, auditing, business services, administrative jobs have been taken away. They've been taken away by the robot. Let's be very clear about it. Let's move forward. How do you reskill yourself? So I'm sure today in the meeting, there are students who are not from computer science background, they're not from IT background. So should you consider this? Yes, I would say yes. Why? Because now in the market, most of the tools, whether you want to be an RPA specialist, whether you want to be a web developer, most of the tools are low code platform. That means you can drag and drop the items, you can code, and the platform will code for you. So you don't have to write the code from the scratch. While we are doing the practicals, you will get a feel of it. What does a low code platform mean? So reskilling is important so that you're always in a job, and reskilling does not limit you based on the field of expertise or field of study that you have at the moment. So let's move forward. These are few analysis that, like, before coming or before even jumping in this session, I was like going throughout the content that I could read and can show you how the jobs have been affected and how learning RPA is going to help you. Learning RPA, since you're in college, it can help you with your final year project. It can help you learn some new technology which would prepare you for the job. And what is the future? How good it is? So let me tell you, the best job demand have been so far in RPA. We've all been hearing that there would be job cuts. People would lose their jobs, and I'm sure there are so many people out there who've lost their jobs. But in this dark phase, who gained the most out of it is an RPA professional. So as an RPA professional, I can assure you the minimum job cut is in RPA department. They are very well paying jobs. You will always have an opportunity, even though all the kind of problems are progressing in the economy. There are still jobs for an RPA specialist. So this data that I've collated over here for you supports my argument. I would like you to go through it. This is a chart that I prepared. Like, there are so many niche technology out in the market, and where do we as RPA specialists stand? So we've got various names for our jobs. Like, we are RPA developers, we are RPA consultants, we are RPA engineers. So these jobs, even though the names are different, have vast scope. So I'll specify everything for you. So where does RPA software developers come into picture? All the service-based companies, for example, TCS, Infosys, they will always need an RPA developer to focus on their projects that's digitalization based. Where does RPA process automation consultant comes into picture? Companies like Deloitte, companies like EY, PwC, all the big four, name them. All of them needs an RPA consultant. So as an RPA consultant, you would be driving their business for their partners, for their firms who they are partnering with. So there's where RPA consultant comes into picture. And where does an RPA engineer or an RPA admin comes into picture? So it's a very universal role. Whether you're in as a consultant or in as a developer, you will always need an admin and engineer to set up the environment, to review your scripts. So RPA robotics engineer, they are a very universal in nature. So this is few skills that are emerging, and I've already categorized it for you where they stand in the market. Let's move forward. These are few companies who would definitely win the market, or they are thriving. So Netflix, Amazon. These were the first few who adopted and first few who made the most out of RPA. So I tried to get most famous companies into the picture so that you're aware or that it's nothing new and people are adopting it. So let's move forward. So what can be automated? This question is is actually for me, it's quite an universal question. People ask me this very often. Anything and everything can be automated. That can be done manually. That's repetitive. That's a bulk task. So a company who focuses on finance, their departments, there are various departments in finance like purchase to pay, order to cash, report to accounts payable, auditing, etc. So all these processes, all the team names that I was taking right now, they all have automation. So currently I'm working for a shared service center, right? It's a finance center and they all have these teams and I've automated all these processes for them. Now, supply chain, IT, HR, customer service, banking, insurance, all of these domain have full automation potential. The best I would like to tell you is always finance and banking. They have the most automation potential. Let's move forward. Let me tell you why I promote UiPath. So UiPath, there was a survey taken down by UiPath last year, and we got the result. The survey says that 97% of the RPA professionals, they're satisfied with their career, whatever they have. And among that 97%, 63% are very much satisfied. They like what they are doing, and it's very important when I say that. So I come from a background which which has various, I've been into analysis, data analysis, I've been into middleware development, and I can tell you that when I took this survey, I was very happy that I'm doing it, and it's very satisfying to be an RPA developer. It's like you're creating robots and you can actually see them work for you. There is the amount of jobs that you get and the salary that you get and the work satisfaction that you have with RPA, they're all proportional. So it's a very diverse field and very interesting field to work on. So I would like to take a pause here, and I'll tell you why I want to talk about women in automation. We come from a country where women have always been the core of everything, right? So I would like to take this moment and discuss this point over here. So why women in automation? I tell you why. So there's a huge gender gap in the global workforce. I'm not just talking about our country. There's a huge gender gap around the world. So as of now, 46.9% of global workforce is women. So the rest is obviously taken up by men. Let's talk about women in leading position. Support staff, 47%. So support staff are the beginners, right? Professionals, 42%. And as we move up the ladder until executive, there's only 23% of the women over there. So it's very important to, give this strength to the women to come into leadership picture. And how will automation help? I'll tell you that also. So in the future, let's not go by whatsoever is written in the slide. I'll give you the main points from the slide. So it is expected that 11% of the jobs that the women are doing can be automated in comparison to 8% of what men are doing. So if you see who will lose more jobs, it's mostly the women who will be affected. Not just by automation, there can be other reasons as well, other environmental reasons as well. So moreover, women are affected. How do you think automation will help them? So UiPath came up with an idea of a robot for everyone, which includes the women in the workforce. How we can achieve it? We can achieve it by upskilling the women, upskilling the women out there, not just women, in fact, everyone. And we can prevent this loss of job and can gain more from it. So that is where UiPath comes into picture, where RPA comes into picture. It's a lot of theory for today, but I assure you, during our next sessions, we are going to dig deeper into practical. Let's move forward. Who is UiPath? So UiPath is a leader in automation. It comes into the leader category of automation tools. If you see, UiPath is also leading. If you see the quadrant under the leaders, this is This is a Gartner quadrant. UiPath is leading. Apart from that, what all tools are there are already mentioned over here. Not just the Gartner matrix, if we see, there are Forrester Wave matrix that you can see over here. You will always find UiPath as the leading automation tool. That's why I decided to focus on UiPath during our sessions. Let's move forward. I will walk you through the studio and the orchestrator and robot so that for you yourself can feel how easy it is to use UiPath as an automation tool. So I'll skip this slide. It's easy to use, open to share. You can easily download the studio and set it up for yourself. We are going to do that today. So I'm going to move forward again. This is a snapshot of the UiPath studio that I took, but rather than focusing on this, let me show you an original studio. So if you see on the toolbar, this is the icon for UiPath Studio. And when you open it, this is how it looks. So this is your UiPath Studio. And before we move back into the theory, I'll show you how a project in UiPath looks like. So I have a lot of projects that's already being created over here, but they are serious projects. So I'll show you something very simple and we'll dig deeper later on. So let's click on processes and let's create our first project. Let's click on create. So this is how your UiPath Studio looks like. We are going to download it. We are going to set it up for ourselves and then we are going to practice. So I'm not going to show or I'm not going to start creating code, but we will do it gradually. Let's move forward. This is another type of UiPath Studio that we have called as Studio X. We will go through it, but we are going to focus majorly on UiPath Studio rather than UiPath Studio X. So let me clear one thing. What are robots in terms of RPA? These are software robots that would reside on your desktop or your laptop. So they are not physical entities, but they are software entities. This is a small interactive chart that I created of having a robot and how to choose what kind of automation you want. So before moving forward, let me tell you what kind of automation does UiPath provide. So there are two kinds of automation that UiPath gives you. One is attended automation. The other is unattended automation. What does that mean? So attended automation is something where you create an automation and then you have to run it yourself. But unattended automation are those robots or those automation projects that can be scheduled. So for example, if you want that every morning 4 a.m., your robot should start running itself before you, like without your intervention. So for those kind of robots are called as unattended robots. Let's see a practical example of attended and unattended robots. Let's dig into it. So I'm going to open the studio and I'm going to show you a practical demo of what attended and unattended automation would look like. I'm going to create a very basic workflow in which the robot would say, hi. That's it, a very simple workflow. So for that, I'm going to use a sequence as an activity. Do not worry, I am going to describe it in detail. But for attended and unattended automation, I'm going to do this demo. That's it, as simple as that. Now, imagine this is your robot, which you are going to work on, and let me publish it. So publishing is nothing but it's a form of deployment that we will discuss in detail. Now, this is your process that has been published. Let's go back to let's try and run this. So this is a cloud service given by UiPath. We are also going to learn about it. Let's see what's attended and unattended automation first. All right. So if you remember, just now I published a code for our first demo, right? So whatever is published comes under the version called as packages. And you can see something called as RTBI demo process that has been published. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create a process so that we can run it. So it's very simple. Let's do this for our demo. Let's select the package that we want, that is RTBI demo process. Everything is auto populated. We don't have to do anything. Let's say if we need any additional settings, we do. So I'm going to give the same name very quickly, and that's it. Let's create. So as soon as I create this, okay, here on my screen you can see the studio icon. This is your studio icon, and this is the robot, your actual software robot. So as soon as I create a process on the cloud, it should get populated over here as well. So let's see. This is our process, RTBI demo process. Now, in attended automation, a user who is using my robot would have to have this robot panel or the assistant, UiPath assistant, and would need to go and click run. So when a person has to go and click run from a UiPath assistant window, that is called as attended automation. So this is what I did. I created a message box that would say, hi students, and this is what my robot, while clicking on the start button, did that for me. As soon as I click OK, the process will terminate and will tell me that it was last run less than half a minute ago. So this is a demo of attended automation. So now if I want to show you what is unattended automation, for that, let me create a trigger for you. So I'm going to create a trigger. I'm going to select my process that I want to run, and I want it to run every 1 minute. For example, the job type is unattended, and I'm going to add. So currently the robot type that I have, it will run in a few seconds. It should run in a few seconds. And currently, if somebody does not go and click on the assistant run window and the process runs by its own self, that becomes an unattended automation process. So this is a practical example of what attended and unattended automation is and what UiPath provides you in this sense. So we'll let it stay like this for over here, and then we'll see what happens later on. But let's not waste time and let's go back to our presentation. All right, so UiPath robots are built with 4 core embedded cognitive skills. These are visual understanding, document understanding, process understanding, and conversational understanding. So what does visual understanding mean? Like, for example, say you have an application which you have to automate that has buttons, that has text box in it. Text box is an area where you can provide your input. All right, so a robot has to understand that this is a button and this is the area where it has to write. This is called as visual understanding. Like as human, I can see and understand, a robot can understand this through its visual understanding of UI elements. Now, what is document understanding? Currently, there is a huge influx of document, like people are after document understanding. Why? Because all the organization, they have some or the other PDF invoices. Say, for example, for HR, it is resumes, everything. What they want is, rather than an employee checking the invoice and extracting the invoice number, the quantities, the unit price, etc., or from the resume in HR going and manually extracting the name and all the other job description, etc. information, the companies now want a robot to do that. So this is where document understanding comes into picture. What is process understanding? Process understanding is, I'll give you a very simple example. So when the organization, for example, is an organization X that starts first time to build an RPA project. they should know what exactly can be automated, right? You can't simply just think that, okay, I'm going to do automation, I'll do any process. It never happens like that. There is a team that decides which process should be taken up for automation. That can also be that is also taken care by the UiPath. You don't need a person to think what process needs to be automated. The robot will tell you what it can automate. So that is process understanding and conversational understanding. So right now I'm talking to you. So for example, if you have a robot on your laptop and you can talk to the robot, that would be wonderful, right? That can also be done. That's conversational understanding. Not just that. I'll give you a practical example. There was a project we did that's called as a sentiment analysis project. So every company has HR department, right? And the HR department deals with usually, let's take an example of hiring. So there is a process that's called as post-hiring review. In that, whosoever was given, like whosoever was doing the hiring job and whosoever were the candidates, they can provide feedback. So the robot would, after reading the feedback, tell you if the feedback was good or bad, and if it was bad, what we can do, and will create a ticket for the HR to work on it. So these kind of things are conversational understanding. And UiPath has all the four embedded into it, all these four artificial intelligence skills embedded into it. And it's very easy to use. Let's move forward. What is a UiPath orchestrator? Let's go back. Let me stop the share again. Let's go back. You saw this, right? Okay, this could not create job because I do not have unattended robot for myself. I only have attended robots. So that's beside the point. So what we were discussing right now, this cloud platform has a name that is called as UiPath Orchestrator. So this UiPath Orchestrator is nothing but a cloud service that UiPath provides, where you can do all your deployments, you can run your robot from, you can create robots, etc. So that is called as UiPath Orchestrator. A snapshot has been attached to this presentation, and we are going to learn how to get one for ourselves. So let's move forward. Before, this is about UiPath Academic Alliance. I'll tell you about this, and before even we start our practical for day one, let's know about UiPath Academic Alliance. So what does UiPath Academic Alliance do is there's a team in UiPath that combines with the colleges, and they both work together to teach and train the students with automation capacity. So UiPath Academic Alliance helps actually to build a good RPA developer workforce. I know a lot of college that in other countries that have benefited from UiPath Academic Alliance. One of the colleges, United Group of Institution in India, who's benefiting from this particular academic alliance, and it's a very nice platform. So how does it help? It partners with your universities or college, and it will prepare the student for future jobs in RPA. It will help you get certified, and it will help you connect the students in the universities and the colleges to professionals in the market. So you will have a mentor for yourself directly, so you can learn from them. Why should you as a student even care about joining such alliances or learning RPA at all? Because it will help you get better job. It will help you get prepared for a digitalized economy, and that's going to happen. It has started, and 2025 is not far. We're already in 2021. Given 4 years, you will have a digitalized economy, and you have to be prepared for it. So it helps you there then. And for talking about not like distant in the future, I'm sure everyone, like as a college student, we have to submit a final year project, right? So this is the best project that you can do. You can automate this process. And I know of students who have automated the processes for their colleges and for their final year projects. So this is one thing. Okay, so I think we are good with a lot of theory today. I'll tell you what we are going to do in all our sessions. I'm going to teach you how to build your own robots. I'm going to teach you how to do web-based automation. I'm going to teach you how to automate Excel and how to automate emails and how to automate a desktop application. And if we are successful, I have a short test prepared for every one of you that I'm going to share with the RTBI team, which will in turn share with all of you. And then we are going to brainstorm how to solve that particular question. So this is my plan. Let me tell you, I have a breakdown for each of the sessions. So for part one or for day one and day two sessions, I've decided about telling you about the orchestrator, how to set up your UiPath Studio, where to find the content and how to study. And then I'm going to teach you about the variables, sequences, flowchart, decisions, activities. And then we are going to create a basic automation game. For other sessions, what I have prepared is to tell you about state machines, data scraping, Excel automation, PDF automation, email automation, and the best part is selectors. I'm going to teach you what are selectors. This selectors is basically what you learned before about UiPath visual understanding. This is how it happens. These selectors are very important. For part three, I have advanced UI automation, exception handling. I will tell you about the orchestrator during our part three sessions. I'm going to tell you more about orchestrator, how to create your own robots and what are queues, what is asset management, and why do we need them. So we are going to discuss that. And after part three, it's just not happy automation. It would be a question and answer series, and I will give you a task. So let's move forward. I'm going to ping you something on the chat. Let me know if you can read through the chat. All right. So I want all of you to go to cloud.uipath.com. Once you go to cloud.uipath.com, you will be asked to create your own account. Use your college IDs to create your account. This is your orchestrator, basically. This is the orchestrator link. So once you create your account, this is where you will land. This is where you will land on the Automation Cloud. Now, how to download this UiPath Studio so that we can start our work? When you register to the Automation Cloud, you will get this link to download the studio. So I want all of you to start downloading the studio. You can totally ignore connect your first robot from here. Totally ignore this because we are going to do that later on. And then I'll tell you a few more important things. So let me ping you those few important links and then we can discuss about it. So academy.uipath.com is a link where you can go and learn and get the learning materials and also your certifications. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. Also, be mindful of whatever account you're going to use to create on the orchestrator. You can use the same account to log into UiPath Academy as well. So when you reach the Academy, this is the home page. All you have to do is sign in. Once you do that, you will have courses, learning by role, certification, resources, and contact. So what I want you to do is go to learning by role. This learning by role are your learning plans. Like you can start from RPA Developer Citizen Foundation or RPA Developer Foundation and can go up to RPA Developer Advanced. So the best is I would love all of you to reach until the advanced level. After completing these sessions, you can easily navigate through all of these and can get certified from UiPath. So these are validated certification from UiPath itself. You can easily obtain it from UiPath Academy. All right, without any further ado, let me start our first session. So now we are going to talk about basic activities in UiPath. So how to start your first ever coding project. So let me first delete this. We've already seen it. I'm going to tell you once how you do it. So once you've downloaded your studio, when you open your studio, you'll basically land on this home page. So here you have various options, and I'm going to describe each and every option to you. So when you click on open, it will navigate you to a particular process that you might have created in the past. All you have to do is select the project.json file, or you have to select your workflow file. So workflow files are usually saved with .xaml extension, and this is how it looks. So you can open your projects in the studio using open. You can close your processes from here. So I'll tell you what does that mean. So if you go here, suppose I have this process opened on my studio. What I can do is I can click on home and click on close. As soon as I click on close, this RTBI demo process will not even run in the background for me. So this is what this close option helps. By default, you land on the start page. On the start page, you can always create a process, and this is how we are going to start, by creating processes. Our aim would be to end up learning RPA framework, that is RE framework, Robotic Enterprise Framework. So that's our target. That's where we want to reach. All right. By default, RPA has UiPath Studio has certain templates. We will learn about the templates in coming sessions. It's like if you click on a template, it would be a skeleton of framework created for you. All you have to do is write your code in it. So these are few things. Then team. If you click on team, and suppose if you're a part of an organization, usually what happens, and I'm sure most of the students over here must be having some Git repository, etc. connected, right? This is here from where you can connect to your Git repository and check in your codes. Then tools. If you come to tools, so suppose if I have to automate something in the Chrome, I have to enable an extension for that, so that our robot can understand that it's going to work on Chrome. So this is what these tools help us. So for my purpose, I usually enable Chrome and Edge extension. Do that. It's very easy also. So just do that. What you have to do is go to the tools and click on Chrome and click on OK. Once you do that, it will automatically update the extensions for you. You have to restart your studio. That's all. Okay, for me, it's already installed, so I'm not going to install it again. If any one of you has a plan of using Firefox during our session as the browser, go ahead. It won't make any much difference. So you can install your extension for Firefox as well. So for our sessions, I'll basically either be using Edge or Chrome, or I'll show you a demo on both. And then settings part. So this settings part is nothing. Like you can change your theme. Currently, I have light theme. You can have a dark theme for your studio. All the fancy things you want, you can do it from here. Your licenses, your profile, all the kind of information is stored over here. And if you go on help, this is like help is where if you suppose, for example, you don't know what is the Academy URL, you lose the chat. All you have to do is go to help in your studio, click on Academy. It will take you to the UiPath Academy. And if you want to see some tutorials, always feel free. There are so many learning items available for us to learn from. You can click on quick tutorials. So it will tell you what all is available as learning materials. All right. So this is about everything about the studio that you've learned. Your studio version, etc. Everything you can learn from the help setting. So what I am using, my studio version is 2021.6.0. It's a beta version. What kind of license I have, I'm reading all this information from here. What kind of license I have? It is enterprise license. What license you will have when you install your studio? It will be a community license. Do not worry, it will not affect anything. Community license means a free version. What I am using is not a free version. It will not affect anything. So, okay. Aditya has written that he has created some few bots in UiPath Studio. I'm totally amazed. That's a very good thing. I hope Aditya is very well aware of few basics as well. So once you install your UiPath Studio, you will get a community license. So this was all that you need to know about your studio, your licenses, your versioning. It's very important. So this is a small advice from myself side. Like I have 6.5 years of experience. What I have learned is as a developer, just don't focus on your code. learn about the tool as well. It's very important. So when you learn about the tool, always remember that you have to learn about the kind of licenses you're using. Why? So for example, every 6 months, let me tell you, every 6 months, any good software will come up with some or the other bug fix, some or the other new releases. If you know your license version, you can decide what version is good for your project. So this is why learn about the tools as well. So let's start with our first ever discussion. We are going to create a project, a process for variable understanding. From here, you can select which folder you want to keep your processes in. So I have created a folder with RTBI as the name, and that's the folder that I'm going to select for all my processes. And our first process is about variable understanding. Let's click on create. And also I'm going to discuss about basic activities while we are going to do all kind of automation. So once you create a process, you will have certain options from here. So if you click on open the main workflow, it will open your design studio. So let's discuss about this. So what you see as main over here, where there is written as drop activity here, is your design studio. So now, once you have the design studio open, you'll have the option of what activities you want to use for automation. It is under the tab activities on the left hand side of your studio, and your project details will be under the project. Now, if you want to see properties of any activity, for example, let me show you one. Suppose I have an assign activity. What are the properties of this particular activity? You can see on the right hand side under the properties panel. So these are few basic things that we should remember. Now there are 3 ribbons. We have already discussed about the home ribbon, which leaves you over here. There is a design ribbon where all basic things that you might need to develop a project would be available. And then while you're debugging your code, you have a debug ribbon. Where can you create your variables? You can create your variables over here. And for now, I would want you to ignore arguments. We will discuss about it in the future. And then let's click on imports. So imports are nothing but these are default namespaces and libraries that UiPath Studio already have it installed for us to be used. If you want to select something or you want to search for something, you can easily search from over here under the enter or select namespace. So let's get to variables. And before we get to variables, let's start by knowing few activities. So there is an activity called as sequence. There is also an activity called as flowchart. Let's make this session interactive. I can answer this question, but I have a question for maybe Aditya. If you would like to unmute yourself, Aditya, and can tell me what is the difference between a flowchart and a sequence. Oh, Aditya, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So would you like to give a basic definition for sequence and flowchart?
Ma'am, flowchart is basically by arrows we can define the activities.
All right. All right. So anything that needs to make a decision is a flowchart, is where you use a flowchart. Anything that is just a pattern of activities is where you use sequence. So for example, I wake up in the morning, I have to brush my teeth, I have to dress up and I have to go to my office. I'm not making any decision over here. This is a set pattern of activities. To code this, I use a sequence. Now, if I have to make a decision like get up in the morning, get ready, and now I decide should I take a train to my workspace or should I use a cab for my workspace? I'm making a decision. For these kind of things, I have a flowchart. Now, apart from that, let's discuss what other activities do we have. We have activities called as assign, where you can assign a value to a variable and to make decisions. There are so many other activities available, but we are going to stick to few basic activities. That is, first is input dialog box, custom input or input dialog box. So what does input dialog box does is it's a way the robot will communicate with you. It will ask you a question and you can provide an input. And what is a message box? Other activity that we have. A message box is nothing but something that a robot uses to tell you the answer. It's not a question, but an answer from your robot. So these two activities are interactive in nature. So what else do we have in activities? There are a lot of activities. Like for Excel, you have different activities. For Click, you have a click activity, and we will learn about it gradually. So now let's start by learning about variables. I'm going to delete this whole sequence. And I'm going to start with using a sequence for our development purpose. And I'll name it as variables again. So if you're familiar with coding, I'm sure you're familiar about few basic variables like string variable. And you can choose your variable type from the drop down over here. Other variable type that we have is a Boolean variable, that is true or false. You have integer variable. Integer, I'm sure you're aware of what is an integer, 1, 2, 3, etc. There are other variables like float, etc. For decimal values, if you have to supply, I would suggest that you use double or float as your variable type. Then there is something called as array. So what is an array? Array is a combination of various values. So those array can be either a string, a Boolean, or an integer. We will discuss about this variable type that you can see over here, system.data.data table, because I've been coding something in Excel. That's why it's populated over here. But yeah, so we will discuss this while we are doing Excel automation. So this is in short about the variables, and I'm sure everyone now, since I've been reading the comments that you've done some sessions earlier in phase 2, so I'm sure that you're aware of it. So let's start by creating a basic automation game. So what this automation game is called as guess the number. What you have to do is you have to ask the robot to take an input from you. You have to ask the robot to take an input from you in form of number, and then you will compare it against a randomly generated number. You have to guess what number the robot has generated automatically for itself, right? It would be good if you follow suit, like I'll be creating the code and I would like you to create it along with me. All right, let's start. So since I'm going to make decisions, I'm going to use flowcharts rather than variables. So I'm going to use flowchart as my basic activity. I'm going to name this flowchart as random number generator. Now, this game says that the robot will generate a number for itself and you have to guess what number did the robot generate. So what is the code? Since it's a number that the robot is going to generate, I'm going to create a variable as int number, as int robotic number, and I'm going to change the variable type to int 32 over here. Now, I'm going to write a small code for the robot that would help it generate this random number. Okay, so you can give a range between which the robot should generate the number. So I want the robot to generate the number between 1 to 100. So robot can generate any number that lies between 1 to 100.
Ma'am? Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you repeat the game, the task? Game.
Okay, so the task is the robot has to generate a number, and once the robot generates that number, you have to guess the number. So you have to create this whole flowchart in the UiPath Studio, in which first you generate the number, then second you input. You ask the robot to take an input from you. That's why we will have an input dialog box, and then after taking your input, the robot will compare your input against the number that it has generated randomly. All right, so this is what the whole process is about for today.
Ma'am, I think we already have did the similar kind of task in the last phase.
So you've done this in phase 2?
Yes, ma'am, similar kind of.
All right, so would you be able to describe how you did that?
Yes, ma'am. So basically, first of all, the computer will ask an input of the number of attempts user want, and then
Okay.
that many attempts user will get to guess a number between 1 to 100. And
All right.
suppose the guess number is 50 and user provides 40, then the computer will show the message box as type like give a greater number, sort of like this.
Or if it is a smaller number, the robot will tell you that it's a smaller number and generate
Guess a
yes.
smaller number, yes.
Yes. So how about others? Have you all done this? So in that case, Aditya, maybe, oh, everyone has done that. Nice. So would it be okay for any one of you to tell me what all you have done and from where I should start teaching you? Or maybe I can show you advanced topics as well. So I'm okay with anything. So maybe Aditya or Aman, Prateek, can you guys tell me what all you've done in phase 2 already?
Ma'am, PDF automation also we did, like transferring, copying the PDF from one folder to another.
Okay. How
No,
about web-based automation? How about desktop automation, Excel automation?
ma'am, for email automation, I guess we did the Excel automation, like included the Excel automation also.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through a few codes so that it's a revision for every one of you, and then we are going to dig into advanced topics into automation. So I'll change the format of what I've decided because I thought that it would be the first of the sessions for automation. What we are going to do is I'll make it more exciting. We will create an app for ourselves in advanced. I'll keep this totally as advanced automation. So I'm sure everyone by now must be having UiPath Studio installed in an orchestrator account.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So we are going to do document understanding. We are going to use, wonderful. We are going to create an application for us using UiPath. We are going to target about chatbots. So let's target more advanced topics. Would that be okay? All right. All right. So let's start, like, rather than going into basic automation, let's start with our first session on document understanding. So I was discussing about wait, give me a moment. Let me show you. Let me send you some documents that we will work on now. All right. Let me see if I can pass these documents to you. Maybe not. I can't pass a file. Okay, so what we are going to learn today is document understanding. I'm going to teach you all the advanced topics. I'm sure you guys must be curious. And since you all know what basic automation is, this is going to be fun. So what we are going to do is, I'm going to show you 2 invoices and we will have homeworks also. So these are 2 invoices that we have. All right, so this is invoice number 1 and invoice number 2. So this invoice number 2 basically is 2-page invoice. And what I want all of us to automate is that the robot should be intelligent enough to get the invoice number, to get the date from the invoice. Sorry. So if you see, this invoice has a table also, right? Number, description, quantity, unit price, and amount. So I want the robot to read all the data that is over here, and maybe we can get, let's get the address also. We'll get the address also, delivery address. All right. So I want the robot to be able to extract these information from this invoice and also from our multi-page invoice. So we are going to create a robot for this. So how do we do that? Let's start. Okay, let's go back to the UiPath Studio. Since all of you have this UiPath Studio already installed, get a flowchart in your design tab. Let's get a flowchart. And then let's let's get few document understanding packages in our workflow. So click on manage package and click on all packages. Let's get document understanding packages. The first package that I want all of you to install is uipath.documentunderstanding.ml.activities. Click on that and click on install. Then the other one that I want is intelligent OCR. Click on that and let's click on install. And the last one that I want is OCR, so UiPath OCR. So let's click on uipath.ocr.activities and let's click on install and let's save it. So once you save it, you'll get all the packages installed. I hope everyone has done this by now. Now, before even going into like detail of the code, I'll show you one more thing. It's very interesting. So what did UiPath do is, while it was like addressing this problem of automating invoices and forms and etc., everything, it came up with something called as UiPath Document Understanding Framework. So there are few list of activities that we are going to perform while using this framework. We are going to create a taxonomy, then we will digitize our document and then classify the document. After that, we are going to extract all the information that I was asking you to extract from using the document data extraction. Then we will have validation and also training the models whenever we will do our ML part, machine learning part using document understanding. So we will get to that also. So this is what you should expect while learning document understanding using UiPath. So since we've already install the package, you should be able to see it under the project tab under your dependencies. So all these activities should be available. The other thing that I want you to do, yes?
Can you repeat the packages that you have to install?
Yes, I'll show you right here and I'll put that on the chat as well. Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you need all this. Do not install OmniPage package. I'll tell you why. You basically only need the first three. Done? Let me keep that in the chat. I will share this with you so that you all are able to study after the session as well. So these are the packages that we need. Now, before going any further, you will need something called as API key to be able to do your document understanding. So you will find your API key under your UiPath Automation Cloud. Click on the admin. Once you click on the admin, click on the licenses. Under the licenses, you will have users and robots and services. So right now, if you remember, I was trying to trigger something from my orchestrator. I did not have any unattended robot that can do it for me. I only have attended. So let's go to robots and services. Over here in the robots and services, if you see, you have something called as document understanding. And if you're doing it for the first time, you have to click on generate new, or you might need to click on generate new, or else there will always be an API key. So all you have to do is to copy this. All right. How to do that? It is already mentioned in the PowerPoint. So if today, right now in the session, you miss any step, it will always be available as a part of my content that I'll share. All right, let's go back to our studio and let's start automating. So as I told you, our first step is to do what? Is to generate the taxonomy in the framework, right? The first is to create taxonomy. Let's start creating taxonomy. So on the design tab, you will have something called as taxonomy manager. So launch the taxonomy manager. You have to click on taxonomy manager. So once you have this taxonomy manager, you have to key in certain values. So these values would be group and a category, and then you start creating taxonomy. So what is taxonomy? By definition, taxonomy is a set of an element that is created or that is used by the robot to classify or to recognize the documents. So let's start. Click on the add button and give a name. So I'm going to name this as maybe finance. You can choose name of your choice. Let's give it a category. The category is maybe docs. And now I'm going to add a new document. So I'm going to name the document as invoice because I am using invoice. So all the group and the category that I created is auto-populated. Now I have to add fields. So these fields are nothing but the information that I want to extract from these documents. All right. So let's click on new field and let's start populating it. So the first thing that I want is the invoice number, this value. I'm going to write this over here. Okay, now when you see it has two things, is multi-value and requires a reference. Requires a reference is always ticked. So when you have requires a reference, when you your robot would always look back to the document and try to find a reference value to it. It will attach to a reference value in your document. It is very important that you use that because it makes your automation more stable. So that is one thing, requires a reference. Now is multi-value. So for example, if you want that you have a document in which the invoice number can be multiple, like not just one invoice number. For example, you can use is multiple value or is multi-value as well. Now let's start selecting the type. I'm going to select the type because sometimes the invoice number comes with ABC and then a number, etc. So I'm going to use text. Let's save it. Other fields that I want is, let's add a new field. The other value that I want is delivery address, date, and this whole table. So let's select date first. And the type will be date. So when you do that, it will ask you to provide an expected format. That's optional. By best practice, whenever I code something for DU, I keep it like empty. Why? Because suppose today, right, in this invoice, it's in this format, dash. In some cases, it can be with slashes as well, right? Various date formats. So if I keep it empty, it will recognize all. Or if I give a value, then it will look for specific format only. Then in your document, it will look for this format of the date. So I prefer keeping it as empty. So let's do that. Let's save. Let's click on new field and let's select address. The type would be address. Let's pick address and let's click on save. And then what I want is to extract all this information from this table. All right. So let's go and let's create a field called as item. And this is a table. So I'm going to select table. Now I have to tell this taxonomy manager what columns I want. So I'm going to start by, let's see, what do we have? Number. It's an integer. Let's select that. Then we have description. Let's select quantity. That will be a number again. And let's select amount. So each line has an amount, right? Let's name it as line amount. You can give any name, but for my case, I'm using line amount. Save. That's it. Save. You have defined the taxonomy. So the first step in document understanding framework is done. Let's click on save and let's see what happens. I'm going to close this taxonomy manager. Have you finished, all of you done until the taxonomy manager part? Or should I go a bit slow? I can wait for you guys. All right, let's go back to the studio and see what happened. So when you created a taxonomy, your basically your project now has a new folder called as document understanding folder. So if you cannot see a document understanding folder, give it a quick refresh. Inside the document processing folder, you will find a JSON file created. So taxonomy.json. Now this particular file contains all the information, whatever we have populated using the taxonomy manager. So I want you to see this very quickly. Let's either open it from here or let's go back to your use case. And let's open the project folder. And let's open this taxonomy document. So you see, I created something called as, the group was called as finance, the category was docs, and then invoice was created as the document type. So the document type ID in the taxonomy.json file has been created, and all the fields that I wanted to extract has been populated in this JSON file automatically. If you see this, it's all available over here. All right. So this is what taxonomy.json file looks like, and this is what happens when you create a taxonomy. Now, how to use it in the flowchart? Let's get an activity called as load taxonomy. So what this activity does is it will by default identify this taxonomy.json file and read the taxonomy that you have created. There is no input required, and as an output, you will get a taxonomy definition. So click on the output expression editor and click Control K and write taxonomy. So this is the variable that I'm creating. You can choose any name. So now you have used your taxonomy inside your process as well. All right, let's see what is the variable type. The variable type is under the contracts taxonomy, document taxonomy is created for you. Now, what do we need is there. Okay, so let's get some input. I'm going to use these files, these invoices as inputs, right? So I'm going to copy this input folder over here. This is my input folder. My files that I want to automate is kept in that. So I want all that folder, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable of type array of string. Let's get all the files as input for my process. How to do that? Click on assign. Let's get an assign activity and let's populate it. Or directory.get files, you can do both. But for the demo purpose, I'm writing the full code. So you have to give under in the get files, you have to give your location from where you want to read these invoices. So this is our location, input location. I'm going to give this. All right. So now I have to process all of the files, right? So before I move forward, there are activities called as for each activity, right? So what does for each activity does? So suppose if you have an array of string and you have 2 items in that array, your for each activity will loop through both the items. All right, but this is a this scenario will go with first item 1 and then item number 2. But what if I want the bot to process both the items together, but also to keep the result distinct? For that, we have an activity called as parallel for each. So I'm going to use parallel for each. Okay, this is also called as multi-threading scenario in UiPath. What happens is the bot will process both your files together, but still keep the result as distinct. So my type argument in parallel, if you see, let me open parallel for each. So I'm going to use item for each item of type string in the array that I've created earlier as file. So inside this, I'm going to do all the processing. And before I do the processing, I will load the taxonomy. So if you see, I got the input where all my files are kept. I created a taxonomy and now I'm using it in my workflow. And now I will start processing all the files inside parallel for each. Now I'll take a pause and I'll open the floor for questions. If you have any questions regarding the process until here, let me know. So after this, we'll move directly into extraction, information extraction. Or let me know if I'm going too fast, and have you done your code until the place where I've done? All right, I assume we've done it all until that level, until the taxonomy generator. Let's move forward. So now our framework says that once I have created the taxonomy, I should digitize my document, right? How to do that? It's very simple. We have an activity. Now remember, everything while you're doing document understanding, remember that you keep your activities inside the parallel for each, and all your variables should be created inside the for each scope. So if you go to your variable panel, there is something called as flowchart, right? So this is the scope. Remember, everything is created inside correct scope, inside our parallel for each. Let's start. So first thing that you have to do after creating the taxonomy is to digitize your document, right? Let's bring digitize document activity as our first activity. So now what you have to give is the document path. Since we are using parallel for each and our document path is stored in the variable called as item, I'm going to provide this variable over here. And this activity gives two outputs, document text and document object model. So I'll tell you what everything is. Let's create this first. Click on Control K under the document text and give it doc test as the variable. And let's create a variable for document object model as well. Now let's pause over here and let's study what does digitizing a document mean. So currently, if you see your documents can be PDF, can be scanned PDF, can be images of your invoices or bills or forms, right? So it has to be converted into a format that is machine readable, that a form that your robot or your machine can easily understand. So this is where digitizing your document comes into picture. Now, there is something called as to drop an OCR engine. And if you remember, I asked you to install a package called as UiPath OCR activities. In this package, you find UiPath OCR engines. There are other OCR engines from Microsoft, Google, etc. also available. Let's use that. Let's go to activities and look for OCR. For our scope, I'm going to use UiPath OCR. You can use Microsoft, Google, etc. But like in real life scenario, if you're going to use Microsoft and Google Vision OCRs, Abby or other OCRs, it might come with a cost. You can use your own custom-based OCR engines as well. And if you want to use something that is inbuilt, use UiPath OCR engines. So for our purpose, we are going to use UiPath Document OCR. Let's drop that UiPath document OCR. Now, before we move into the configuration of UiPath document OCR, let's understand the properties of digitized activity. So there is degree of parallelism, document path, force apply OCR. Let's talk about degree of parallelism that is set to -1. It means that it's going to, once you start running your operation, it's going to digitize all the page that is associated with your document. Now, if you can give it any value between -1, 0, and 1, it's totally your choice. By default, it is -1. Now, the document path is nothing. The path of the input document that you want to digitize, we are going to give it as item, and then force apply OCR. So if I tell you something is OCR, what is OCR? What is the meaning of OCR? It means optical recognition of a particular document in our case. Yeah, optical character recognition, right? But is it necessary to use OCR, or is it an OCR based process? No, it is not. Document understanding will only use OCR if you're giving it an image rather than a PDF, or if you're giving a scanned PDF. All my PDFs currently are computer generated PDFs. How will you know that it is computer generated and not scanned? It's simple. I can easily highlight. So whatever gets highlighted is basically my PDFs are generated using computer. It's not a scanned document. Also, for example, basically this, not this one. This is actually a scanned document. But this one, if you see, I can easily highlight everything line by line, right? So this is a computer generated invoice, and for this OCR will not be applied. But when it comes to this, can I select anything line by line? No. So this is a scanned document, and my computer or my bot is going to use OCR while performing document understanding on this particular document. Now let's configure our document understanding process activity. So in the UiPath document OCR, you have to give API key and endpoint. So where will you find all this information? Let's go back to our automation cloud. Let's copy the API key and let's provide the value over here. So it's a string. It should be double quoted. And then your endpoint. So you'll find the list of endpoint over here. I will show you. And I'm going to pass this information in the chat. Make sure you take a list. Yes, Aditya, I'll share the PowerPoint that contains the process of what we are doing right now. I will also share the code with you, and I will also share the homework with you guys. So make sure you open this particular link. When you open this link, you will see certain endpoints. And for UiPath document OCR, we are going to use this. So let's copy it from here. Let's go back to our studio and let's configure it over here in the endpoint. That's it. So what we have done, we have created a taxonomy, we have digitized, or we have converted our documents into a machine readable format using digitized activity. Let's give it a run. Let's see what happens when I run it. Basically, I'll add few read lines so that we can see what happens. You can do it too. And one more thing, like these are few things that I can share with you that I learned while actually creating projects for my processes back in my workplace, etc. The most amount of time that is taken is by your digitized activity. So creating this code is easy, but in actual runtime, this will take the large amount of time. The most time that it will take is here. So let's run this. I'm going to run it in attended fashion. Let's run the file. So if you see what my robot is doing is digitizing both the documents, and it will take a bit of time because, as I said, digitization takes a bit of time. So in real life scenarios right now, I'm using very simple invoices for our session, right? But in real life, documents are very complex and they take a lot of time. So that is one reason why we have to be very careful while automating. Also remember, these are few best practices that I learned while doing the project. Automation has to be stable and automation has to be quick. Now, I told you that I am using parallel for each, but nobody asked me basically why when we can use for each also. Let's use for each now. Let's see what happens if I use for each. Uh, Please make sure that you ask me questions. I'll be very happy if you ask me questions. So now we did it using parallel for each. I'm going to use for each and I'm going to show you the difference.
I guess for each, if you use for each, then it will do one by one.
Yes, yes. And when I said that we always, when we are doing automation, make sure that it is stable and has a good speed. This is where I use parallel for each because it chooses both the documents all together. So for demo purpose, let me just put this and let's just do this. I'm sure that you know it. We are just doing it for the demo purpose and nothing else. I'm just going to copy this sequence inside for each and save it. And one more thing. All right, Let's give it a run. You might not see a huge difference, but when you're doing projects in real life, you will see this. And I'll share some very interesting findings also with the studio that I found, like while developing my codes. It's very interesting. I'm sure you will enjoy learning about it. So let's run this. So right now, if you see, it's first digitizing a 3 invoice, 3 PDF, one by one, and then it will digitize the other multi-page invoice. But when I was using parallel for each, both the documents were used together. Now it started digitizing the other document and then it stopped, right? So this is the basic difference. Now we are not going to use for each. We already know an effective way, so we are always going to use for each. Let's start. Okay, any one of you, do you have any questions? All right, assume not. Let's go back to our framework and see we have to now do classification. So what is document classification? Until now, what you told your bot is, see, you have two documents. Over here, you told the bot that you have two documents and you will find it at this location. Now you told your bot that your document must contain information like date, invoice number, etc. So you told this with the help of taxonomy. Now what you did in parallel for each, you told the bot that I'm going to convert it into a machine readable form so that you can read it. Now what you're going to teach your bot is to classify it so that the bot knows whether the document that you placed is an invoice or not. So I'm telling you in real life, what happened with me is like I was doing this processes and I had like around, we had to process around like 800 invoice per day. And in that 800 invoice, since the user was giving me the invoice location, sometimes what they used to do is keep an Excel document also. So now the bot will be like, definitely the code will fail because this code is written for invoice processing, right? So what classification helps you is to understand whether the document that's kept in your input location is an invoice or a wrong document like Excel has been kept, right? So let's use classification. So for that, there is an activity called as, so classification is a set of activity. So first you have to use your classified document scope and then you will have classifiers. So we have intelligent keyword classifier, machine learning classifier, and we are going to do all three. I'm going to teach you machine learning part also about it. So, okay. So for those of you who has not who have no background of machine learning, etc., do not worry. It's very easy to use in UiPath. Also, there is a catch: when to use classification and when not to use classification. So if you go through the tutorial, like on the Academy, they will show you just set patterns of activities: do this, do that, and etc. But you use classification. Suppose, for example, my organization says, see, Javeria, every time your customer will send you an invoice that will look like this. It will not change. It will never look like this. So I don't need to classify. I already know that it is a PDF document. I already know that it will look like this. So I don't want my robot to waste time in classifying it. But if you know that your business or your customer can give you invoice that can look like this, that can look like this, or it can look like this, or it can be an Excel or a wrong input altogether, then use classification, right? So we are going to use classification and I'm going to show you something very interesting. Let's use classify document scope. Make sure, also I said the scope of your activity variables, like these variables that we created is very important. Why? Because if you keep it out of the scope, basically there's high chance that your code can fail. This is one of the important learnings that I can give you through my experience. Always remember that. All right, let's give the input. So the input is the document path that is stored in our variable item. Now with digitizing the document, I got document text and DOM or document object model as output. That's what I'm going to use in my classified document scope. Let's try using it in the document text, give doc text. In the document object model, give doc. So where did you get this output from? You got this from digitize activity. Taxonomy as an output, where are we getting this? We are getting it from here. We already have output taxonomy. Let's use it. Taxonomy. All right. Now what do we get? We get an array of classification results. So always it's important to know your variables. So classification activity will give you classification result in form of array. It's very important why we will learn this gradually. So let's create an array variable, control K, and let's give it auto classification result. Results. Done. So now you have the output, but you say you still have an error. Why? Because right now you only defined the scope. You did not tell the robot which classifier it has to use. So as I told you, there are 3 classifiers. Before showing you the classifiers, I'm going to show you the ML part of this whole code. Don't worry, if you can't configure it, then also it's okay. You basically have to learn only 2 classifiers from this session. Learn 2 classifiers, the ML classifier, you can learn with me as well. If not, always feel free to drop me a question about the AI part as well. But I'm not going to configure, I'm going to show you the AI part. So for those of you, if you're using community license, you might not see the AI center. You might need to ensure that you have enterprise trial. If you don't have, don't worry, just look through the section. It's good for having knowledge, right? Let's go to the AI center and I'll show you what I have on my AI center. So what I did is, like, for my projects, I created basically ML models, machine learning models. So I have one machine learning model called as ML classifier skill, and that is what I am going to use. It's very easy to configure. We can discuss this in detail, but for now, let's focus on document understanding because this topic is completely different and very interesting. So we will discuss maybe later, but let's focus on document understanding. So I already have a classifier skill configured and I'm going to use this. Let me show you what all I have. So for the data set, I already created a data set and I've been training it. The more you train, the better your ML model gets. It's applied for if you're ever interested in data science, it's a thumb rule. The more you train your model, the more better output you will get. So I've trained it multiple times, at least 4-5 times I've trained it. So I have the values over here. So my classifier skill is already ready. Let's go back to our studio and let's configure the classifiers. So how? Write classifier, you'll get the activities. So now we have intelligent keyword classifier, we have keyword based classifier, and I have machine learning classifier. Let's get all the 3. All right. So all the 3 is there. Wait, let me first cancel this. We will use this later. First, let me discuss these 2. Okay. Once you get these classifier, you will see something called as learning file path, right? By default, no file is created. You have to create your file for both of these classifier activities. So what kind of file? It's a JSON file. I will share you the default JSON files as well that I have. So let me keep you. So create, I hope you're coding alongside with me, and you can stop me anytime if you think that I'm rushing in the code. Just make sure that you stop me. Okay, so create 2 empty JSON files. There should be nothing in your JSON file. Just create them. Let me show you. There are some values. I'll delete it. Let me delete it. Done. Empty. Then the other is intelligent keyword classifier. I'm going to delete this. Don't worry, it's not difficult at all. Delete it, done. All right, let's get back to our flow and let's read those files over here. So we'll first discuss keyword-based classifier. So I kept my document over here. I'm going to read it. Done. Now, once you do that, you saw that there was some information that I deleted. How was it populated? So what your classifier does, it needs certain words that it will recognize from the document and classify based on it, right? So let's teach those words. So add new keyword set. Yes.
Ma'am, can we please continue in the next class?
Oh,
Like it's all new to us, so it will take time to digest everything.
okay, never mind. So what I'm going to do is I will delete these classifiers. We will start during our next session. That's tomorrow, hopefully. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you this particular flowchart. And for all of you, I'm going to send you this document, this whole code. And I'm going to give you 2 documents to practice. So you have 2 documents. Wait, let me show you. Just bear with me for a couple of minutes. It's very important. So these 2 documents I'll give you for practice. It's basically a form. So what I want you to do is to create a taxonomy for this form. In the taxonomy, I want you to extract information like this address from the first page and use page number 53. Like page number, there are 2 tables actually. Use page number 53 and create a taxonomy. So this is your first column. To 2020 is your second column, 2019 is your third column, and assets, current assets, all these are description. So in your taxonomy, create these 3. So I'm going to pass you this document is similar. Yes, this document is very similar in nature. So what I want you to do is while you're creating taxonomy, create a table. So this one table, and maybe you can get the what can I ask you to get the date, or let's get the OMB number. Get the OMB number. All right. So create taxonomy and create the taxonomy and classify your document. Digitize and classify. Do until here. So I'm going to share the code. I'm going to share the document for practice. I'm going to share the slide. Both the slides that I have, I'm going to share that, both of these. So, all right, let me stop the share. Okay. If you have any question, feel free to drop me an email anytime. I'll help you through your questions as well. That's all from my side. Harshit, it's over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your enlightening session.
Thank you.
We are glad to see the information you shared, and surely it will help us in our studies and future.
Definitely.
Yes. So thank you, everyone. And let's tomorrow meet again in another new amazing session. We will be again there. And since ma'am is again, ma'am will be coming after a few days. So ma'am will be continuing all the classes. Till that, meet tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, guys.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.